Kevin. So we briefly met, gosh, must be like a few months ago now. When we met, I told you about my background in sport, and you mentioned that you used to play basketball. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
Basketball. Man, that used to be my end-all be-all in life. Being an athlete just meant everything. It felt more like a creative outlet for me, just through the physical form in sport. But basketball was really emotional for me because I realize now as an adult why I did it so much as a kid and growing up is I wanted my father's approval. You know, my dad wasn't in the picture, and, you know, sports is the thing that he was big on and that he did and that, you know, he loved. So I felt like I had to follow in those footsteps to be able to have that relationship or even that acceptance. So I pushed myself to excel in sports as much as possible.
And what level did you reach in basketball?
So it's interesting. I reached the junior college level in basketball. I feel like I could have gone further had I committed and dedicated myself to education back then.
How much further? Are we talking NBA levels?
Overseas. I definitely I could have done well overseas. And NBA, I don't think I was that good for the NBA. But baseball and football, for sure. For sure.
Are we talking American football?
Football.
We're not talking
soccer.
Not
talking soccer, okay. Yeah. American football. I'll tell you a quick story.
Please do.
So when I moved to South Carolina and I finished high school down there, I played football and I was beyond good, right? Played wide receiver. My first year playing football, I had 17 touchdowns. That's big, right? Yeah. So because of living in South Carolina and being from New York and being away from my family and being away from New York during the summers,
right?
Because football training in high school, it was a curriculum that we stuck to during the summertime, and you had to be in South Carolina. So for me, New York meant so much that I didn't want to spend my summers in South Carolina. I went back to New York. But the interesting thing was the coach at the time was going to allow me to get my workouts in and all my training in New York and then come back to South Carolina when school started, which was in middle of August, right?
Right.
So going into my junior year, either sophomore or junior year, I quit. I
quit
literally
football.
quit
football. Everything, just football.
I just wanted to focus on basketball. I was like, that's my passion. That's my heart. It doesn't pull me away from New York City during the summertime. So I wanted to end, and I disliked the fact that when the football season ended, we usually went far in the playoffs or to the championship. So by the time I transitioned into basketball, I missed like the first 3 or 4 games. And then it took a few weeks to like get
back into it. Go from football to I'm a basketball player
Exactly.
now.
You know what I mean? So I felt like that was like hurting, you know, the start of my basketball season for that season. So I was like, no, I just need to be all in.
How old were you?
I was 15, 16.
Got you.
Right? 15, 16 years old. 15 to 17 years old. So quick story is when I quit, the football coach he was also the athletic director for our school. He did everything in his power to get me to play. I mean, he sent all these players after me who are on varsity, you know, don't get like, come on, man, we need you, we need you, we need you.
He was rallying up the troops.
Right. So I was ranked number 15th in the nation as a wide receiver going into my junior year, and I didn't even play. Right. So I come home one day and I come in the house and my mom is sitting on a couch with this white man. And I'm like,
you're being poached.
I'm like, what's going on here? It was a recruiter from Georgia University.
Amazing.
And it was a quick conversation of him saying that, you know, they're a fan of mine and, you know, they'd love for me to consider the school when it comes that time. You know, if I want to play basketball, you know, they could help me out in that program as well. But I wasn't being recruited. Of course. So it was just this thing. And I never forget that moment. And my mom was like so impressed, but also disappointed because football seemed like a more like safe shot for me.
Right.
Where basketball was like, I'm in South Carolina. It's not a basketball city. I wasn't being heavily recruited as much as I wanted to. And what got me to the junior college was my AAU team. Like I played for the Brooklyn Beast. And that allowed me to like make the connection with the junior college, which was SUNY Cobleskill that I ended up attending. But yeah, the story of like quitting football as going into my junior year and having a big university like Georgia University interested in me playing, and I was like, I want nothing to do with it.
So at like 15, 16, making that decision, like what was it that gave you the confidence to make that decision? Because I remember when I was doing like multiple sports every single night of the week, there was athletics, there was hockey, there was tennis, there was everything. And there was one point where I had to make a decision, it's going to be athletics.
Right.
You know, and I was going to leave netball, which is like a female version of basketball, behind, and hockey behind, just put all of my talent into this one thing, which was easy for me because it was a team sport. Now, what was it in you as a 15, 16-year-old kid that was just like, no, this is the, even though football perhaps presented itself as an easy route, what was it that made you just go left?
My spirit. I feel like I've been blessed, which is a gift, to have an instinct and an intuition about certain things in my life that I just go and I go on this journey. And it may not be ideal for other people who care about me as my family and friends and different relationships, right? But I've always had this ability to trust where I'm going and know that I'm going to be successful and I'm going to be all right. So I feel like my spirit spoke to me that sports was never going to be my true calling. It was something I was good at, something that will get me really far in life, something that will teach me valuable lessons that I could carry on today as a man. But I knew innately that it wasn't my true calling. So I think I made those decisions early on because my spirit was driving me. My intuition was driving me. So I can't really say it was like this like mindful thing that I was so aware of. I just think my spirit just led me down that journey.
And you said you grew up so you were spending time in Brooklyn and then you were spending time in South Carolina. Now, I'm crap at geography, but those two places feel like they're characteristically completely different from one another.
It's completely different.
How did you end up in the two places?
So there's three. So I was born in Staten Island, right? Grew up there early on, and then I moved, and the rest of my life was between South Carolina and Brooklyn. And I call Brooklyn home because for me as a man, it's where I learned the most. It's where I found who I was, my true identity, and the things that I, am a part of now in my life, I learned from that borough, that city. So geography wise, New York in itself compared to South Carolina, two completely different places, right? You have this deep South where, we can go on for slavery to the different levels of racism. And, in the South, people kind of move at a slower pace. There's more of a relaxed lifestyle where New York is more upbeat and up-tempo. And
what are the industries down there? School me.
Industries in the South, a lot of like shipping and, there's like a lot of, farming, obviously. My grandmother had chickens and things like that on her property. You don't really get that in New York.
No, not so much.
Especially in the city, right? So you have the trees and the grass and the sounds of chickens, And in New York, you have, buildings and skyscrapers and, people cursing each other out and taxis honking and buses, you know what I mean? So
were you moving back and forth with your mom and
so my mom moved myself, my older brother and my older sister to South Carolina. But every chance we got, like spring break, Thanksgiving, Christmas was the only holiday we couldn't go back to New York because we were playing basketball and we had games around Christmas, so I couldn't leave, right? But every chance I got, I went back to New York. Like, it's I appreciate South Carolina more now than I did back then when I was living there. It is still home for me. It's a home of mine, but I feel like I'm lucky to call different places home because they've meant different things to me and they taught me different things.
How did South Carolina shape you and prepare you for New York? Was it just literally like you couldn't have been prepared for New York? It was so different, or did it make you absorb more? What was it like?
I think South Carolina gave me a different foundation in the sense that coming from New York to South Carolina, I had a different swag about me that could be perceived as arrogant, but it was really just the level of confidence that I walk in a room, I just like own that space. I think South Carolina made me kind of see how that truly can affect other people if you don't humble it in a certain way. You know what I mean? So I felt like it gave me a different foundation to where I went back to New York, I was able to kind of like have more humility. You know?
So socially, those places sound like they were very different, and you almost had to learn how to act when you got to New York.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And what would happen if you didn't?
If I didn't? I mean, New York is a very aggressive city. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, I think the difference in South Carolina, you walk down the street, everyone's waving at you.
Yeah.
In New York, someone waves at you, you're kind of like, whoa, what? This is weird. This is awkward. You know what I mean? So I think I had that level of awareness of like knowing, okay, I'm in New York again right now. So I have to kind of walk to the beat of the city. Whereas in South Carolina, you know, people waving and saying hello is like, that's just what they do. You know what I mean? So it was,
100%. And talking about walking to the beat of the city, so you kind of hung up the basketball sneakers for acting.
Yes.
When did that come about? And again, was that intuition again? What led
intuition met with circumstance. I was dating this girl, Crystal, at the time in school, and I don't remember what she did exactly, but she did. Yeah, Crystal. She did something that, look, I'm a sensitive guy. I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm an artist, right? And I'm more confident expressing that now than back then. I had to have this level of masculinity, or toxic masculinity is what I like to call it, right? To not be vulnerable and open about certain things. It triggered me in a way to where the emotions that I felt with Crystal made me think about my upbringing in my life. And that was the first time I kind of like had this, I don't want to call it a anxiety attack or a breakdown. It was more like a breakthrough where like for the first time I was able to articulate how I felt about my dad not being in my life. So I called my mom, and then we called my brother, and we were on this 3-way phone call, and they were hearing me like just cry and just pour out my heart about how I feel. And I felt alone, and this bothered me. And, you know, my dad never saw me play high school ball, like ever, not one game.
Was he ever present in your life?
Yeah. You know, I love my pops to death. Like, you know, I understand him now, more now than I have ever in life.
Why
and just because we have these conversations about his upbringing, you know, he had his own stuff that he was dealing with in his life where he couldn't be there as a man. You know, it's not something that I like but it's something that I've had to endure. But I feel like when people go through things in life and you can acknowledge them and sort of like try to redeem them, he's a hell of a grandfather. Like, you know, to my 2 kids, to my nieces, and that, like, he's a hell of a grandfather. So it's like he's paying it forward. He wasn't the best dad because he wasn't able to be there. He didn't have the tools to be there. So I have a little more compassion, you know, in that sense.
I feel like we were almost experiencing different times where masculinity is concerned. I feel like our parents' generations were the generation that just did not speak. Like what you just expressed there, that ability to kind of open up and start a conversation.
Right.
I feel is something that's only really happened in the past 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
You know, if I look back to my grandparents' generation, you know, I went back home to London just a couple of weeks ago, and I'm having a conversation with my nan about the Windrush generation, the generation of people that moved and migrated from the Caribbean over to the UK. They were invited over to work. These people were highly skilled. And my nan, in, you know, her opinion on, and because of it's that generation, were just uneducated. They're not quite sure why, as far as they're concerned, they're immigrants. And I'm like, how do I broach this conversation with my nan who's, you know, 70, 80 years old?
Right.
You know, is this... there's just not necessarily a level of understanding or communication that can be had. And I kind of had to think, is this a conversation I want to go into now? Is this how I best want to spend this time with my nan?
Right.
Or do I just want to have a good little chat? Do I need to explain this now? Or I feel like we're now in a generation whereby there's a lot more understanding about thoughts, feelings, emotions.
Absolutely. Well, we should have the dialogue, because the things that we don't discuss and open up about bother us. And there's a domino effect that happens negatively. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes we don't realize why we continue to find ourselves in the same situations over and over and over again. It's a lot of times we're dealing with unsolved issues, right? And they're all connected emotionally, or they stem from our childhood, right?
100%.
So for me, I've always been a seeker of, you know, trying to better myself in everything that I do. Like I want to be the best. So I want, you know what I'm saying? I want the information to equip myself with.
That's the athlete in you.
In me. Exactly. That's why I'm saying, like, being an athlete has great value, because it teaches you those things.
100%. Yeah.
Right. So I feel like when it comes down to being open and being vulnerable and having, you know, these conversations and open dialogue is healthy.
But I don't feel, do you know what? I don't feel that sport ever taught me that. I felt like it was actually the opposite. I felt like sport taught me how to be strong. It taught me how to tackle things head on and look for solutions, but it didn't teach me vulnerability. That's the thing that I'm now exploring away from sport.
Right.
How did you find that?
I think acting helped me with vulnerability more than anything. I think the combination of the competitive spirit that sports taught me, and then combining that with the level of vulnerability and emotionality as an actor, because that's the type of actor I am. I pull from real life situations. So if I'm giving a great performance and it feels connected and people resonate with it, is because I'm substituting something real from my life. That's called method acting, right?
Yeah.
And I love it because a lot of actors don't like to admit this, and it's like sort of taboo to say it in the acting culture, but it's therapeutic in a way. You know what I'm saying? I'm able to be vulnerable and open, and if I'm crying or whatever emotion I'm showing, that people can resonate and connect with and be rewarded by giving a great performance. You're getting a paycheck. You might win an award. You know, you're being celebrated in a way where it validates the emotion. So I think, take acting out of it, I feel like what we have to do as a culture, as people, as men specifically, is like, let's make it cool to be vulnerable. Like, who said it's not cool to be a vulnerable human being and, you know, disclose how you feel about something, or something might bother you, or, you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like we've been sort of taught from men before us, and it's a generational thing that we've been taught that, you know, not to cry in front of a woman. But it's funny, the irony in that is my mom told me not to cry in front of a woman, not my dad.
Really?
So
when did she tell you that? How old are you? Do you remember?
I remember I was like, I want to say maybe 18, around 18, 19. I was going through something with a girl, and I was really emotional about it. I was crying on the phone, and she was like, don't let that girl see you cry. Like,
what do you think?
Don't ever cry in front of a woman. She
what
just
was her
went
reasoning?
Off. I don't know. Like, her
what do you think?
Not to look weak, right? My mom's a very strong woman, and you know, she's, you know, she grew up in the Bronx. You know what I mean? Like, she comes from that, you know, that culture in New York, and she's had to endure a lot in her life. Like, she lost her dad. Her dad was killed while she was giving birth to my sister. You know what I mean? So like, my mom was forced to be like this tough woman early on. She experienced a lot in her life. And I remember when she told me that, it, like, she was adamant about it. Like, don't ever cry in front of a woman, as if, you know, it was a weak thing. But I can't blame my mom. Those are the tools that she had in that moment. And she was trying to do something positive and teaching her son a valuable lesson. But was it valuable? No, I don't think it was the right thing to say to anybody, to not be able to be vulnerable and open in front of someone, if that means crying or whatever emotion that you're sharing.
I get you. And do you feel like the process of acting has almost undone those beliefs and thoughts that you had about what it was?
That's why I say acting saved my life, because it taught me the complexities and the different, you know, like who I am today, I owe to being an artist, being an actor, you know, learning who I am as an individual, learning, you know, my ultimate need in life and then what my action is and my tragic flaws and all these different things that make me me. You know what I mean? Like knowing that I'm not a perfect human being, that the mistakes that I've made in life can also be a positive if I pay it forward and I redeem myself.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? 100%. So I used to carry a lot of guilt around mistakes that I've made when it came to women and relationships and, you know, just different things that I've experienced in my life. And when you don't have a level of compassion for yourself and for those situations, that it creates this level of guilt that it blocks you from a lot of blessings, because you're walking into a room with this energy that people aren't seeing your je ne sais quoi. They aren't connecting to that light and that presence that made you special before.
Completely. I'd say it's almost like a self-loathing, I think. I think that I can remember there was a time when I was in a relationship and I was just like, you know what, I have to get out of this relationship. Yeah. Because if I don't end it, or the person that I was in that relationship just made me feel like a bad person. Like the way we were treating one another, and I'm just like, I don't want to feel like a bad person. And so unfortunately, I have to step back from this so that I can go and find my light and feel like a good person again. And it's really weird. I kind of felt like it was a really simple transition. It was like, be a good person and you'll feel like you're a good person and you'll do good things. And then your light kind of comes in.
Yeah, but it's, that sounds very black and white, which I'm
super black and white thinker.
See, and I have a different perspective. Like, I think life isn't black and white. I think life is more in the gray area. But I think we want to be so black and white.
Oh, yeah.
That the gray area is like, nah, that's not right. But think about it. Like, no one human being on this earth is perfect by any means, right? We all have different perspectives and ideas on a lot of topics and, you know, religion and politics and whatever. It makes us who we are. So, but to have the gray area in a situation like that is to have understanding. Like, I can be friends with someone who practices Islam.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Where I grew up in a more Christian church growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, this is what I think has been really interesting. Since I arrived here, I've been in the US like maybe a year now. And as I was coming in, obviously, Trump was nominated in. And that was a really interesting time in America, because I remember having conversations with people basically saying, I don't think I can be friends with my friend who voted in Trump anymore. And it seemed like it really kind of divided people, that political, you know, discord, the idea that, oh my God, I'm going to have to stop talking to that person because of the way they're voting politically. In a time when I thought, oh, we're making headway with communication and bridging relationships. And that was a time which just kind of caused this huge chasm of, no, I can't go anywhere near you now. You might have been my friend for 10, 15 years, but I didn't know that you were that kind of person.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Ooh, that's a very extreme, you know, bringing up that guy's
Is that black
name.
and white?
That's black and white for sure.
There you go then.
It's
point made.
Yeah, point made. But again, like, it's, I mean, okay, let's go gray area. Like, we heard what Kanye said about Trump, right? Now, I don't know Kanye that well personally at all. I've, you know, been around, whatever, know a lot of people close to him, but like, I know how to compartmentalize when it comes to certain things. I'm a huge fan of him creatively, musically, right? Think he's one of our creative geniuses that you know, we're proud of.
Undoubtedly, yeah.
Right? But do I agree with the Trump antics and things that he's been spewing in that? Absolutely not. But a lot of people that were like quick to throw him under the bus, and then his album came out, the narrative
now
changed.
What?
You know
what
I'm saying?
Are they saying
like,
now?
Everyone's flying to Wyoming, like, I gotta go to this. Exactly.
Hey.
It's like we're walking contradictions. You know what I mean? So that's gray area where it's like, I don't agree with your politics or your political stance in support of this man that most of us don't agree with. But for his own that's him. And I can't fault him or judge him for that. You know, I think it's hard not to do it, But I think the goal is to be in a space where you can understand someone's views and respect it for what it is, even if you disagree.
I agree.
But it doesn't take away that he still makes great music.
Do you know what? I think 2018 could be called the year of Kanye for the way in which he has challenged us all.
Yeah.
I feel like, he's challenged us in a way that we weren't necessarily ready to be challenged. Yet here we are, still listening to his music. And it just goes to show that, sometimes things that come up in the media that we perceive as negative and damaging can actually maybe move the needle forward. But we're going to come and talk a little bit more about that later. Okay. I want you to tell me about your first acting gig. Did you shit yourself? Because here you were, you'd played basketball, you'd done sport, and now you're thrown into a completely different career.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? Lights, camera, action, go. How did you react?
I want to say I showed up like I belonged.
Yay.
Yeah, I wasn't really nervous, or it just felt like home. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And home should be the safest place, right? 100%. That feeling. So I felt safe. I felt free. I felt like this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Straight out the gate?
Straight out the gate.
As soon as action.
Yeah.
Deep.
Yeah, I knew I belonged. I knew I was doing something that I was put on this earth to do, which is why through all the ups and downs and trials and tribulations I've had in 16 years in this craft, in this career, I've stuck with it. You know what I mean? Like, I've heard people tell me over the years, like, man, I don't know how you go through what you go through. It's like, you're working 1 minute and then we don't see you. No one knows what's really going on behind the scenes. I mean, I'm a hustler though. So I constantly always make other things happen, and I have interest in a lot of other things. But as an artist, like, there's been a level of struggle that I don't think the average person, can endure and come out of it. So I'm very aware of that because again, I think when you have this belief and that the end goal is this level of success and happiness and joy with what you do, then there's no, I told my mom this today earlier on the phone. I was like, if you take acting away from me, you might as well kill me. Like, I might as well be dead because this is who I am. Like, without me, it just doesn't exist.
You were made for it. It's as simple as that. I think it's hard. It can be very difficult for people who aren't in a creative industry to understand that. I certainly felt the same about sport. I can remember when they were asking you when you're young, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, I'm already an athlete. I'm an athlete. Right. That's what I am.
Right.
I bleed like the blood of the track.
Yeah.
I think it can be very difficult for people to understand like how much of how a passion can drive you to. It's almost like what you do as an artist, whether that be an athlete, a sports person, business person, that risk taking is absolute insanity.
Yeah.
When you break it down and you look back at the decisions that you've made in order to pursue your career in acting, what would you say has been the most fundamental one, like the biggest decision that you made, or the most game changing?
Like fundamental decision, or like a pivotal moment that...
Pivotal. Let's go pivotal.
Let's go pivotal. All right, so I have to give you the story.
Please.
So she's going to hate hearing this, but it's the truth. So while my ex-fiance, my daughter's mom, was pregnant, I was pulling into the garage and I stopped because she was hormonal. We weren't on the best of terms during the pregnancy. So, there was a lot of issues there, and the energy of like, I'm out in the world pursuing what I'm pursuing and trying to provide and be that man and not feeling comfortable going home all the time. But I remember that moment where something spoke to me and said, stop. And I didn't pull into the garage, and I reversed and I started driving. And I made a phone call to this other actor. I don't want to say his name, but he was like, yo, where you at, man? Come meet me over here. and it was far. And I went and
How far?
About like a little over an hour.
That's over 60 miles.
Yeah. So I drove, and on the way there, it just felt like it was what I was supposed to be doing. So I get there, I meet him. He's in this home of these people that I don't know. And it was this older lady there, and you could tell she had this spiritual energy about her. And she looks at me and she was like, young man, your life's about to change forever. And I was like, okay, I hear you, lady. You know what I mean?
My goodness.
Yeah, it was interesting. So from that moment, this actor was like, Kev, another actor who was like popping at the time. I don't want to say his name either.
Oh, come on, spill the tea, Kevin. This is like Sunday.
But so we go to meet him because he's at this barbecue. He's at this barbecue. And long story short, we get there, and the barbecue was who was hosting it was this director, right? This is a great story. And so, okay, I get there, we see the friend, we say what's up. There's people, there's all our peers and friends there, and it's having a good time. Everybody's eating, drinking, having a good time. So I get introduced to the director, not having any idea of who this man is, right? I wasn't quite aware of his background at the time. So I run into a friend of mine from Brooklyn.
Yep.
BK Rube, what up, Rube? So Rube is, he's a part of Junior Mafia. He came up with Biggie, and I just finished the film Notorious. Yeah. I played Mark Pitts in Notorious, right? Right. Yeah. And Rube was around while we were filming. He actually has like a little role in the film. And I kind of make fun of him to this day about that scene.
Smashed it.
Right.
Clearly nailed it.
But so Rube sees me like, it was like, oh shit, Kev, what's up, bro? Da, da, da. He was like, man, it's crazy. I was just talking about you the other day. And I was like, how? He was like, well, Anthony, whose house this is, he's about to direct this George Lucas movie. I think it's called Red Tails. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. He was like, yeah, I told him about you. And he was like, nah, I'm a fan of his work, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, cool. So Rube was dating this girl at the time that Anthony and this girl were best friends. And she was living there with Anthony in his house. So that's the connection there.
Got you.
So now I'm like, okay, now my networking antennas are up, like, okay, this seems like a great opportunity. You know what I'm saying? But I want to be organic about it. Like, that's never been my style to kind of like be up in somebody's face and
bowl in there.
Yeah, nah, that's never been my way of doing things. But organically, it all worked out.
Got you.
So as I'm conversing with Rube, Anthony comes over, and now we're all having a dialogue with each other. And, Anthony shares like, man, I'm a fan of your work. Blah, blah, blah. I have this project. And the whole time I'm thinking, how do I get his phone number without asking? like, how do I get his number without having to ask him?
How did you get it?
He said, we need to exchange info.
Okay.
So
and how would you, if he hadn't have offered it, what would you have done?
I just trust that something would have worked out to where we connected.
Because there must be so many times when you are at an event in Hollywood or wherever it be, where you're in front of the person that you want to talk to the most, and you're just like, you might even be in conversation with them, and you're just like, what the
But you just have to trust the flow, because we're all on high alert. People are opportunists in a negative way. So you have to be careful of the energy that you're exchanging with people, what someone's motive is. So in that situation, it felt safe, I'm sure, for Anthony, because with the relationships that existed. Yeah. But mind you, go back to the core of the story. I was supposed to be home. Right. But I ended up at
where you were supposed to be.
I was where I was supposed to be, right? And meeting Anthony, that was a pivotal moment that changed my life forever.
Because you then went on to
to actually do Red Tails. But more than the project, I gained a brother in Mr. Anthony Hemingway, and which, fast forward, he's the godfather of my son. He and I are now partners on a show that I wrote and created called Bad Religion, and we're about to go out with it. So that's, you see what I'm saying, full circle to where it's like where I am now in my life and being a creator and not just a work for hire as an actor, I'm partnered with someone who is well respected, who is insanely talented and smart and has, you know, such a great eye for film and TV. And I mean, I'm sure people are gonna look him up and see the amazing body of work that he has. So I'm in such a great, you know, space.
100%.
And, you know, I just look at those moments in my life that if I didn't go that way, what then? You know what I mean?
I always feel like it's those crazy moments where you're not supposed to, you know, where you have that option, do I go left or right, that always bring out the wildest opportunities.
Yeah.
100%.
For sure.
So take risks, people. Take risks.
Yeah, take risks. But in that moment, that moment, it seems very selfish. Which there's a level of selfishness that you have to have in this business. And, you know, I used to carry guilt around that. Every relationship I've been in, I've been told how selfish I am, or people, you know.
Likewise.
And and I get it. Like, I have more compassion now for it and understanding. I understand it, but I also understand my perspective too. You know what I mean? So like now I'm not living for myself anymore. So things that might come across as selfish to someone, there's a bigger picture to why I'm doing certain things.
Yeah.
I have an unrelenting need to provide for my kids a certain way. It's my stuff. And no one's going to truly understand that but me. And it's important to me. I know time is important, and, you know, I don't spend as much time as I would like to. And I used to carry guilt around that. But now I understand the bigger picture, and I have to make some of these sacrifices to get to a certain place to be able to do what I want to do.
You're triggering this memory that I have of me and my brother going at it. Me and my brother are only 2 years apart in age. And I can remember him saying to me one day, Louise, you're so selfish. And I can remember thinking, like, I'm not selfish. Like, the one thing I do whilst I'm away training is think about my family. The one thing I try and do whilst I'm away in the US is get home to see my family. And I can remember the day I won my gold medal, and he told me how proud he was of me. And I'm kind of like, it's for those moments, like, so that my family can see me on the world stage, representing the Hazel name and our family. And I can remember thinking, adamantly just thinking, you're wrong. You see it as selfish because I'm not there. But I'm doing what we all thought was completely and utterly impossible.
See, that's the thing.
And I'm showing you that it's possible.
I love that.
So that when your daughter grows up, all three of them, they know that their auntie was an Olympian. They know that they have a piece of, you know, history.
With
their name
goes
down in history.
You're talking legacy now.
Completely.
Which is my focus right now is like, I don't want my kids to ever feel like their dreams should be, you know, prohibited because of circumstances or whatever. Now, of course, there's responsibility with being a parent and trying to find that balance. And I'm constantly trying to find that balance. The fact that I'm trying to find that balance is halfway, you know.
Means there's a willingness. There are people that just aren't.
Because I love my kids, but, and I also understand with the, you know, the mothers of my children, what, you know, they've been very supportive, but then there's also a feeling with them that is let down or disappointment because of certain expectations that, you know, have been built up. So when those expectations aren't met, it triggers an emotion that you feel like, hey, I thought we were a team, or I'm doing a little more of this while you're able to go out and pursue X, Y, and Z. And I know what I do, it looks fun, right? It looks like it's just, oh yeah, just
another party.
Exactly. Like, I work way more than I enjoy myself, but I enjoy what I do. So yeah, it is fun because I love what I do. And I feel like that's the difference in people who have a calling and a passion for something versus people who might not have been blessed or fortunate to have their calling
or find their
calling, right? You know what I mean?
Because I genuinely feel that everybody has one, but I also feel like you have to be brave. And that's not to say that people that haven't found their callings aren't brave, but you have to be really brave to acknowledge that you're good at something, that you're excellent, better than the person next to you,
right?
And to go and pursue that. And pursue it at times when you don't know whether you're going to get paid this month.
To be constantly rejected, to hear no over and over and over and over again. You know what I mean? And to find sanity in that. You know, it's not, you know, it's not an easy thing. No. You know, like I remember when my niece, who's now in film school here in California, when I first heard that she wanted to do what Uncle does, I immediately got protective and scared. Like, no, I don't expose her to rejection.
Yes.
Like, I know it comes in life, but like,
you want to wrap her up in cotton wool and just be like, no, it's not for you. It's not like, try something else first.
You know what I mean? Like, do something else. Like, don't go through what Uncle goes through. Like, but who am I to say that
it might not? Yeah,
this isn't what she's supposed to go through in life.
Exactly.
You know, so. You know, my thing is to be supportive and try to help guide people to make better decisions than I've made, to help equip them with better tools, you know.
This is interesting because one of the questions I had for you, I watched Roxanne on Netflix, which was a movie you were in. You played Marley.
Yeah.
And he's almost like this big brother character.
Right.
He kind of pops up in the movie and is kind of like, look, you're losing yourself. You're acting like a fool.
Right.
I wanted to know whether that, and I feel like you've just answered it, is part of your character, who you are
who
as
I
well.
Am
whether there are similarities.
There's extreme parallels to that. I feel like that's the life role that I have. Like everything I've been through in my life, every horrible decision I've made, you know, betraying people in the past, like doing things from a survival standpoint, is to be able to pay it forward and teach people that this is what I had to go through. This is what I've experienced, so they can have a better outlook and a better outcome. You know, I truly believe that.
You don't mind taking a few bullets?
No. And it's, you know, I won't sit here and say like, you know, I'm this hero who was willingly doing that in the time, or I was so aware that I need to do this so I can pay it forward this way. Like, no. In those moments, I did what I had to do out of a, you know, fear or, you know, survival, you know, whatever it was. But I'm so clear now that I own those things instead of being ashamed
the good and
of them.
The bad.
Exactly. Instead of being ashamed of them and carrying this guilt with those things that I'm not proud of, I need to be open and honest about it and share with people so they can learn from it.
Talking about being open and honesty, your current project that you're developing. So you and Anthony are developing a show, isn't it?
It's a TV show, yes.
Tell us more about that.
Without spoiling it or giving anyone all these ideas, it's I'll talk about the themes of it. Please. Versus like
the story
and, you know, who the character is necessarily. Like some of the themes that are in the show are identity. Right. And with identity comes sexuality. And one of the biggest themes is this idea of masculinity versus toxic masculinity, which then equals redefining masculinity. Like, what does that look like? You know, so with those themes, the show pretty much tackles these concepts and these themes. And it's presented in a way to where the center of it is connected to mental health. Like, in these themes, there are different choices and ideas and perspectives that we have. And if we don't deal with them in a certain way, it will ultimately affect the choices we make in life, which then affect our mental health and then affect our physical and so on and so on. So there's that ripple, that domino effect. You know what I mean? So the show Bad Religion represents that in a nutshell. You know, it's not a show about mental health, but it is. It's, you know, of course, the narrative is going to be entertaining and is going to be set in a world that people can relate to. But what I want to do with this show is really highlight and create dialogue culturally for people that look like us, and people around the world can relate to these issues that we all might have seen or experienced ourselves.
So you talked about toxic masculinity versus masculinity. What's the difference right now in 2018? What do we know more about masculinity now?
I think it's masculine to be vulnerable and to be open in front of not just a woman, but in front of a man, in front of your homeboy. Like, some of the conversations I've been having with like my friends in my life right now have been deep. And like, you know, like I'm thinking of a buddy who, you know, he was with this girl and, you know, she gained success and kind of like split, and he kind of put his life on hold and was, you know, paying for everything, their rent, their this, their that. And, you know, he kind of felt like he felt used. Right. But then it made me look at myself of being like, wow, I remember being in relationships with people and the timing of certain things happening. And you feel like this is my way out. It sort of almost goes back to the crabs in a barrel mentality, right? Where it's like, I don't want to be the crab to stay in this. So this opportunity comes, I'm out. But you don't think about the person who was there for you and helped you, you know, might have helped you eat, you know, for a month, might have helped you with some of your bills. It's like, as an artist, we've all been through it. And then when that moment comes, that opportunity, and you take it, and then you kind of be like, thank you, I appreciate it, but I got to go this way. It's not a good feeling. So I used to carry that in situations that I've been in over the time. But with this particular friend, we've had this deep conversation about how he feels. And it's like, you know, she was supposed to, I don't want to say pay the money back, but it was like this level of like, I'm now in a position where here I could help you. You were there for me, but this person just completely ghosted him and moved on with her life. And it's a painful thing. But the fact that me and this friend were able as men to have this conversation and it not be about fuck that bitch. It wasn't, you know, like that's toxic masculinity right there, where it's like we put up this defense mechanism, we put up this facade, and, you know, this barrier of like, you know, I gotta be cool. Like, it's cool to be, you know, to be tough and like, you know, walk down the street and like, you know, you see somebody and it's like, I don't know, it's just bullshit to me. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So what does that mean for men and women? Like, what are our responsibilities therefore to one another? Now, knowing that we know now about masculinity and knowing what we know now about men in 2018, we know guys have feelings. We know we're not perhaps there yet. We know that everyone
we have Drake and Frank Ocean. So.
Exactly. They're emerging. They're everywhere. But what do we need to do as men and women towards one another? How do we have to act responsibly towards one another?
Wow. I've used this word.
What have you learned?
I've learned compassion. Like, that's like my word of the year right now, right? It's like compassion, because the more we understand one another, then the better off we'll be in our communication. You know, the higher our affinity for each other will be. And the more realities we'll be able to share with each other. You know what I mean? That's really the core of it. And I think those different concepts of like compassion and understanding one another just helps the relationships between men and women. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, for example, approaching a woman and she tells you like, hey, I'm not ready, you know, for X, Y, and Z. But then at the end of hanging out with them, you try to kiss them. And then they're like, whoa, like, I'm not ready. You don't know like what that's going to trigger for that woman, or what happened to her that she may not have shared, or whatever the case is. I feel like a lot of times we project what we want in situations and we don't truly listen to a person's spirit. We don't listen to that intuition of like being in someone's space and saying like, let me take my time here with this. Let me, you know, I feel like we create missed signals within ourselves. I feel like men do that more than anything. And I think also too, as a man, and it's like being extremely transparent about your agenda and what you're looking for. Like, if you meet a girl and she sees potential in you, and like, women are gonna take you seriously and be like, oh, this could be the one. Like, I want to explore that. But if you're a man that's like, I don't want a serious relationship. I'm not trying to be committed. You know, I'm in this space where, you know, we can hang out, we could be cool. If we're going to be intimate, we'll do it safely and be intimate. But this is what I'm on. And if you're with that, cool.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Now I'll speak out. I've been that man that didn't always do that. So then you create this false reality for the woman and expectations where she thinks like, okay, this is this guy, right? And it sounds good in the moment. And, you know, you're telling them all these ideas and how you see your future. And they see themselves in that future that you're explaining to them.
Yep.
So there comes
there.
Exactly. Like, and I've been that guy, you know what I mean? And there comes a level of responsibility in that to just be transparent and open, because I've also found it when you are, people can understand and say, okay, I have all the information of your situation. Yes. I can choose if I want to partake or not.
I can make a decision of,
and if they do,
decision.
And if they do, because I'm sure people are going to look at this and say, but yeah, what happens when you tell her what you want and then she still comes at you like, you know, like you didn't tell her what you wanted and she makes you feel. That's when you shouldn't feel guilty about it because you gave her the information and the respect.
You should remind her of the information that you gave.
Exactly. I told you this is what it was. You know what I mean?
100%. I can remember having conversations with one of my friends about honesty being the foundation of every single relationship, whether it be friendship, whether it be business relationship, whether it be your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife.
Right.
Because then you give somebody the power to make a decision for themselves, and an educated decision. The minute you withhold information, or the minute you only give so much.
Yeah, you look like a liar.
Yep.
You're hiding, you know what I mean? And
I find a lot of the time the truth will set you free, but the truth can be a bitter pill to swallow for some people.
Right.
But far better the hurt of the truth than the hurt of lies and deception and all of those things.
Absolutely.
I think that's what we come to learn as we get older with lies.
But I think a lot of times why we don't share our truths is we fear the unknown.
And we fear losing out ourselves.
Right, exactly.
Which is selfish.
Very selfish, right? We've all been there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But
Guilty.
I think the power in that is you actually walk away feeling so much better doing the right thing.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I told this woman X, Y, and Z, and she said it's not for her. Once you get out of the idea of like, I wasn't able to sleep with her, or you know what I mean? It's
then you'll kind of be at peace.
You'll be eventually at peace versus misleading this woman, sleeping with her, creating this false reality, and then when it's done, you move on, and then you have this negative energy working against you in life. You have this guilt that you're not even aware of if you have a conscious. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's not, you know, I've had to learn the hard way in that. So I hope to be able to share this type of dialogue, you know, for men coming up to make better choices and better decisions.
And talking of that kind of internal conflict, you mentioned sexuality as being one of the themes in the movie.
The show.
In the show, sorry. So you starred alongside Mahershala Ali in Roxanne. Right. Obviously, he led in Brain Fart. Moonlight. Has he heard or read the script? And does he know about the project? And if so, has he given you any advice?
Mahershala? No. No, it's a I don't want to say it's a secretive project. It's just something that is not ready to be shared with a lot of people yet. There are some exciting things happening around it that I can't wait to share with people, but I'm a firm believer in just let the work speak for itself versus, you know, talking about it. A lot of people in this town talk about what they have going on, and I feel like, you know, it's an insecurity thing.
Totally. So it's an interesting time, I think, with sexuality, because I feel like it's almost, there are two things going on. I feel like we're almost on this trend of being sexually ambiguous.
Yeah.
And then there's this other side whereby I feel like everybody's bisexual nowadays. And I feel like, are we seeing a trend of people just jumping on the bisexual bandwagon? Or are we just in a place whereby people just feel more comfortable being able to speak their own truth? Where do you think we're at?
I think we're a little bit all over the place, to be honest. I think genuinely there are people that are trying to fill a void, and it makes sense for them to go this direction. I feel like there are genuinely people who are just, they're gay, and that's okay. And but I feel like there are people that are confused, and I guess I'll share this about the show. Like, that's part of the character, is being in this confused state of understanding, like, dealing with sexuality. Because it's like, okay, like, you could be, I guess it's like a case study, but this is a character that's created. It doesn't pertain to my life. I want to be clear about that. But me understanding and like being curious about people and humanity and different themes and how we're affected by certain things. The idea of a man being physically attracted to a woman, but emotionally meeting another man who provides something emotionally that you've never witnessed in your life. How does that then, how do you react to that?
How do you navigate
how do you navigate that? And I feel like there's a connection that's had between those two men, but what happens when it gets so deep and then you then begin to possibly sexualize it or question the idea of sexualizing it?
Yeah.
So like, that's kind of like where I am with this thing, which seems more gray area, right? It's not.
That's exactly what we talked about. It's definitely not black or white.
Not black and white. And now, black and white as far as like, personally speaking, like sexuality, like, I love women, but I've never been one to, discard someone because of their sexuality. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like I've been fortunate enough with, the people that I am friendly with or close with that are homosexual. They haven't ever crossed that line with me or made me feel uncomfortable in any. And that's something else, because culturally, there's a lot of people that I know, no names will be said, but that, have this level of homophobia. You know what I'm saying? Where they feel like every gay man wants them, right? It's like this, like you're entitled
to. You're giving yourself a little bit too much credit.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Or it's just like you can't be friends with someone who is into men, or vice versa. Women, like,
does that still exist?
I think it does still exist. Like,
where are we currently at with regards to being black and being gay?
It's still taboo. You know what I mean? It's, especially in the hip hop culture, is like, it's a no. Like, it's just, but not just like sports. It's still a no.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, it's a lot of, I'm sure everyone has their own upbringing and perspective, right? I was always taught like being gay isn't cool. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you're weak. You're, like.
Is that like maths isn't cool?
Just like what isn't cool?
Just like maths isn't cool.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So
but it's kind of good to know how much money you've got.
For sure.
That's always been.
It's great to know how much money you have. Yeah, exactly. That's a whole nother topic
after
we can
tax.
get into about like learning, just educating our youth about certain things. But just on the sexuality thing is, I don't know. I think everyone's perspective is different on it. Everyone feels a different way about it. Some people go, to the Bible. It's a biblical thing. Like it was said in this, this verse. So I don't know the verses like that, but that men should not do this or women should not. You know what I mean? So people have religious beliefs. People have just their own personal beliefs but I tend to be like, yo, live your life as you shall choose. As long as you're not hurting people in this world.
Love who you want to love.
Love who you want to love. You know what I mean? So speaking of Anthony again, he's recently got engaged to his partner, Steven. And
congrats.
Yeah, congrats, y'all. Like, and I was there and I was fortunate to have been invited. And it was such a beautiful moment, like to to see these two people who genuinely are in love with each other and it not be this thing about two men. It was about love. And like, I respect that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm an extremely heterosexual man who's saying this. And I feel like we need to like just lead with love and stop being so judgmental about how other people live their lives. That's pretty much it.
Do you think that there's going to come a time whereby, sexuality, homosexuality is globally accepted? And I mean, we've got a lot to do within just the Black community alone, but will we come a time where that's not even a conversation anymore?
I think if we do, you and I probably won't be on this earth anymore.
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
I think, Raf and I, producer Raf, we were talking about how the next generation, like, are so much, they're so much further along in understanding their sexuality. And they're so much more open with their sexuality. And there are so many different terms and, that even now I feel like I'm getting old.
Right.
And so I feel like there's almost, I don't know whether sexuality will effectively become extinct and universal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't. Just like, obviously racism isn't. It's like, it's learned behavior.
Yeah.
Learned behavior is really hard to shake. I'm constantly working on things in my life of learned behavior to sort of break, So it's hard, man. It's life is not easy.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So,
but there are certain people who I think have broken barriers. Who for you in the Black community has broken that barrier with regards to their sexuality and being out or being outspoken about sexuality? Who do you think's moved the needle forward the furthest?
I don't know. I think it's a collective.
I'm going to go so far as to say I feel like Frank Ocean.
Frank, yeah. I think as an artist that we can all look to, yes, he's been one of them, and I think even still some people are like questioning, like, is it real? Is it true? Like, I don't know him personally, but I love his music, and whether he is or isn't, it doesn't affect me either way. I'm going to continue to support his music because it's great and I love it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like...
Why is it that we question that, though? When somebody comes out, writes a letter, posts it to social media, and why do we even question
because
that's
it's the
their
idea.
truth?
I feel like it's the idea of what we want to believe.
What we want it to... We want to believe that it's not?
That it's not or that it is, right? I think...
And that it's just marketing.
Right.
So we're cynics enough to the point where we'll believe, oh, that's just marketing.
When people are sharing their truth, if it doesn't look a certain way,
that's so sad.
It's really sad. It's extremely sad. You know what I mean? It's like if we go to social media, like people rather see a lie,
yes, than see the
post than the actual truth.
Yeah.
If something doesn't look cool or, you know what I'm saying, but it's honest, they don't care. All we care about is the fantasy of, we want to be told or shown, a dream. And a lot of times, like those pictures that people are posting, there's something else behind it.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like, think about, the girl that might be posing like, a bikini shot or whatever. Yeah, it looks great. Like, you're hot, you're beautiful, celebrate your beauty and your body. But like, who knows what she's dealing with emotionally? Who knows if she's sleeping on the couch of a friend because she doesn't have, her own place right now. Like, that's... I have a character like that in Bad Religion. The girlfriend character is like...
Got you.
That, yeah.
What, filling some sort of void?
Yeah.
I feel like you're super low key on social media as well.
I am.
I remember you actually pointing it out when we first met. We talked about Instagram. Like, are you on the gram? You on Insta? And you were like, yeah, I'm super low key on Insta. And I was just like, okay, let me do a deep dive. Kevin, you are super low key on Insta. Why do you keep it such a low pro?
I guess I wasn't really comfortable with because if I'm gonna put something out there, an image, I want it to be honest. I want it to be real. So I guess I'm getting more comfortable being open and owning my truth and not, it's like, okay, so here's the thing. In the past, I've posted more I've put my pictures of my family on there, and I've seen some comments, and I got really sensitive about that. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to expose that my family to these negative forces out there when it comes to social media.
Yep.
Right.
Same.
It's like, I know I'm in a profession that brings a certain energy and awareness to it, and comes with the territory. I'm not running away from that.
Yeah.
But I can control what I share with people.
Yeah. It's almost like you can have me, but you can't have my family.
Yeah. It's like something has to be left and sacred for me.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And a
how
lot
I
of people,
feel.
trust me, I've heard judgment from even the people I've been in relationships with, to like, why don't you post this, or why don't you post that, or this person thinks, you're hiding, because it's not about the negative, the cynical thought that you have about why I do what I do. Like the reason behind it is, I don't want to expose something that's sacred to me, and that means the world to me. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I feel like people use social media for how they use it. I still haven't mastered how to use it. But I want to share more about me on these platforms, because again, the space that I'm in right now of like sharing and owning my truth and my story to help, make an impact for other people's lives, I have to be more open with it. But it doesn't mean I have to share my family.
I agree. 100% I agree. I very, very rarely post pictures of my family up.
Yeah.
People always say, well, why don't you post pictures of your abs? And I'm like, because that's not all I am. It's as simple as that.
Right.
And with that, we are coming to the point in the show which is called All That and a Bag of Limes. So,
all that in a bag of limes.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I have a bag of limes here for you. And on my limes are questions. If you can't read them, just give me a shout and I'll read them out for you, because I wrote them in really scrappy handwriting. So reach into my little bag of limes, pull one out, and read it out loud. These are quick fire questions.
Even real limes. I want real limes.
Well, do you know what? I was using...
I dropped one.
Man down.
Man
Lime
down.
down. Who's going to get it? Go on, long legs. Go on, long legs. Okay, what does it say?
What are you watching on Netflix?
Yes. Go for it.
That's a good question. What am I watching on Netflix? I'm watching a few things. I love Black Mirror.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Mindhunters is really good too.
I've seen it.
It's a David Fincher show.
I don't think I've seen Mindhunters.
Yeah, it's season one.
Is it the psychology one?
Yeah.
And it's basically where they're looking
the
criminal
FBI.
profiles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Mindhunters is cool. So yeah, those are two. There's so much content.
Do they go and visit loads of criminals in prison? That's the one, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
I like that, dog.
Yeah, Mindhunters is exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
It's your turn?
No.
Oh, I have to pick.
These are your limes. They're not my limes.
I have to pick every line?
Yeah.
Okay. Last movie you watched? Ant-Man.
I watched Ant-Man. Did you love it?
I didn't love it.
I quite liked it.
Yeah, it was cool. It was entertaining. Paul Rudd is funny. I like him. But yeah, it was just like entertaining. Nothing.
I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I watched it literally yesterday.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah, I watched it recently. I don't. Yeah, what day was that?
Interesting. Ant-Man. How many stars would you give it?
Out of
5.
Out of 5, I give it 3.5.
Average. I'd go 4.
You go 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Defo. Go for it. Pick.
Kill one. Friday or Boys in the Hood? Woo! Damn, that's a good one.
And you never get to watch it again.
Never get to watch it again. Done. Friday.
Really? Ouch. Producer Raph, you said you'd kill Boys in the Hood. He said he'd kill Boys in the Hood. Yeah. That's because I felt like Friday was giving us just too much jokes. Yeah. And there was a lot of violence in Boys in the Hood, which is fine.
It's, I guess, because of the dramatic part of me, like comedy versus drama. Like, yeah, you could laugh at anything. Yeah, there's funny parts in Boys in the Hood, but it's just so real and relatable. And I feel like issues that even we're dealing with today that were exposed in that movie. You know what I'm saying? So from that standpoint, yeah, I'd rather keep Boys in the Hood, even though I love Friday. Yeah. Difficult. 3 dinner guests, dead or alive.
Go for it.
Wow.
I'll wait for an invite.
Wow. I'm gonna go with 3 dinner guests alive.
Mm-hmm. You can mix and match.
I'm gonna go Jay-Z, Will Smith, and Allen Iverson.
Done.
Yeah.
Who's cooking dinner?
Oh, it has to be out of them? I mean, we'll have a chef cook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You would, because you'd want the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Kanye or Nas?
Have you listened to both of their albums?
I have.
Which one did you prefer?
Man, it's a tough one.
Favorite track?
I don't have a favorite track. I gotta go with Kanye. Damn, I'm staring at these names like, man, if I had to kill one, or just like I could never listen to their music ever again.
Never listen to it again.
Nah, I gotta go with Kanye.
What's that mean? You're keeping Kanye?
I'm keeping Kanye.
You're keeping Kanye.
Yeah, I'm keeping Kanye. Yeah.
There it is.
Most underrated and underrated actor.
Yeah, in the game, in Hollywood.
Ooh.
Dead or alive.
Man.
Don't speak ill of the dead, though.
Oh, man. I can't say who I'm thinking of right now.
I know who you're thinking of, though. I know.
I can't.
I think I know who you're.
So I'm gonna pick somebody else. I think overrated. I think Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Why so?
I don't know. Just
doesn't.
Lord of War. He killed.
Yeah.
Face Off.
Yeah.
Those are probably the only 2 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most underrated in Hollywood right now.
Most underrated. Someone who hasn't gotten the opportunities.
Either opportunities or just didn't get the credit they deserved for a role that they played.
For a role that they played. Dang, that's a good one.
You can only pick one.
I can only
make it count.
I'm trying to make it count. I think.
This is someone's career.
I'm trying to help.
You're about to put someone on right now.
I'm about to put someone on
Make
who
it count.
I feel like doesn't get the credit that they deserve, and I feel like they should. I can't think. It's a woman, and it's shoot.
Have you had a brain fart?
I had a brain fart.
Put it down. It'll come back.
We'll come back to it.
Yep.
It'll come to me.
It will.
Yeah.
IMDb.
Stage or screen? Screen
every time.
Yeah.
If you can never tread the boards again.
Screen. Kill one. Power or Empire? Empire gotta go.
Gotta go. Why so? Have you seen new series Power yet?
I haven't, but
I haven't.
Shout out to
I'm
Amari.
desperate to, but if I was desperate to, I would have tuned in by
Shout
now.
out to O, that's my guy. Happy
What's up,
for him.
Amari?
Yeah, he's doing his thing. So
come on the show.
Yeah,
I'd love to talk Power.
I have no ties to anybody on Empire. Sorry.
Empire.
Fuck, marry, kill.
Oh, that's funny. Talking of Empire, fuck, marry, kill. We've got Taraji.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Halle Berry.
Mm-hmm.
Got to throw in there. You're welcome. And we've got Tiffany Haddish.
Tiffany Haddish.
Yeah.
So I have to.
Is it Haddish or Haddish?
I mean,
Haddish.
your British side.
I'm going to say Haddish.
English, yeah, Haddish.
I'm going to say Haddish.
Garage.
Garage.
Yeah, not garage.
Garage.
Yeah.
Garage.
Okay.
In the garage. No, the garage.
Garage.
Yeah.
Wow. That's damn. Fuck, marry, kill.
Taraji,
Halle, and Tiffany.
Tiff.
This is full.
I love this bit.
I'd marry Tiffany because I feel like she'd always make me laugh.
True.
And I think she's beautiful and extremely talented, and I'm attracted to talented people.
I watched her perform. I say watched her. We were at a party and she was performing Proud Mary.
Right.
She absolutely smoked it.
Yeah.
Smoked it.
Yeah.
Note perfect.
Yeah. So, yeah, I married Tiffany Haddish. I'd fuck Halle Berry because she's Halle Berry. And I'm sorry, Taraji, just because I'd really fuck Halle Berry and would marry Tiffany, then that means I have to kill Taraji. But I think Taraji is amazing, though.
She's wicked.
She's super talented.
To be fair, she got the bum end of the deal there. Not
yeah, she did. Yeah,
never mind.
It's just by default.
In another trio.
Yeah,
she'd come out on top.
She'd come out on top. Yeah,
for real.
Yeah.
What else we got in there?
This is Kill One. Philip, Dr. Phil.
So here's the thing. So you're a Phillips. So Kill One Philip, Dr. Phil or Uncle Phil.
Dr. Phil.
Every time.
Come on. Uncle Phil?
Gotta keep Uncle Phil.
Gotta keep Uncle Phil.
Oh, those done? Right, this last one. And if you can't remember who it is, then that's it. You have to pick somebody else whose name you can remember. Kevin's face is so funny. You're like, give me that.
Most underrated actor.
Yeah. In Hollywood right now.
In Hollywood.
And we're in the month of July 2018.
The month of July 2018. This person does not get enough credit. There's a few people I'm thinking of.
Pick one.
But people don't really know them that like one girl I'm thinking of is Ada Perel.
Ada Perel.
She was in my first acting class ever. She starred in oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. What's the movie that D Reese, I think, she directed Mudbound?
Yes.
So her first movie, what was her first movie that she directed? My guy Charles Parnell was in it. But Ada Perel was about like this girl who was lesbian. And so my first ever acting class at Black Nexus, it was called at the time, Susan Batson. Yep. People who are in the game, they know who Susan Batson is.
Big up, Suze.
Yes, that's Mama Batson. Ada Perel was in my class. And out of that class, there was 5 students. And we basically had to do a monologue in front of 35 students from Emerson College in Boston, where Susan went to school.
Got you.
First acting class ever. Ouch. Right? So I do this monologue and Susan kind of made it like a fun contest. Like the Emerson students had to vote who they would give a call back to or who they would hire.
Yeah.
And I was really shocked, but not shocked. I came in second to Ada Perel.
Yeah.
She was first, right? First acting
quite
class
rightly
ever.
so, or do you feel you were robbed?
Nah, I wasn't robbed. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just went off my raw talent, my instinct. Yeah. But that was another pivotal moment in career because that started everything for me. That gave me the trust, the foundation, the relationship that started with Susan, who became like a second mother to me. She sent me out on this audition called The Lady Killers that Marlon Wayans actually got the role. Hate you, Marlon. But no, I wasn't nowhere near ready. I was so green. But that was my first audition, professional audition that I ever gone on from Susan. And she claimed that was the second time in her career that she's done that. Met an actor and sent them out on an audition immediately. But I never forget the words that she shared. She was like, Kevin, I promise you, if you commit to this craft and this training and understanding what this is, sky's the limit for you. And I've been committed ever since. Yeah.
Kevin, I'm going to end it there. That's a beautiful note to go out on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on Slay Sunday.
Yes.
You heard it here first. Halle Berry, you're in. Tiffany, you're married. Good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much.